Welcome back to another episode of Soul Signals, where intuition meets inspiration and extraordinary experiences become everyday possibilities. I'm Sharon Marie Allen, and today we're exploring a question that almost everyone asks at some point in life. Can loved ones communicate with us after they pass away? I hope you're having an amazing day. But I also know that for some of you listening, having an amazing day doesn't feel so easy right now, especially if you're carrying the crushing weight of losing someone you love. If that's where you are today, I'm truly glad you're here. My hope is that this conversation brings you comfort, hope, and perhaps a new perspective on the bond we share with those we love, because love doesn't simply disappear. Unless you've lost someone incredibly close to your heart, it can be difficult to truly comprehend the depth of that longing. In an instant, the world can feel darker and lonelier, and grief has a way of touching every part of your life. During those moments, the heart longs for just one thing: a sign, a whisper, anything that offers reassurance that the people we love are okay and that they're at peace, and somehow they're still with us. If that is where you are today, I want you to know you're not alone. My intention for this episode is to shine a little light into that darkness. Whether you're simply curious about what happens when we leave this physical world, or you're navigating the pain of a recent loss, this conversation is for you. My hope is that you'll come away with new insights, real stories, and practical ways to recognize the signs that may be already surrounding you. And perhaps, instead of feeling that your loved one is gone forever, you'll begin to discover something many people have experienced throughout history: that the relationship doesn't necessarily end, it simply changes. They haven't disappeared. They may have just found a new way to reach you. I want you to know that everything I share with you comes from a lifetime of deeply personal experience. Over more than 20 years, I have witnessed and experienced things that most people would consider impossible. I have seen apparitions with my own eyes, received signs so specific and undeniable they defied all rational explanation, and communicated directly with departed loved ones and with consciousness that exists far beyond the boundaries of this physical world. I'm not speaking to you from theory or from books. I am speaking to you from the lived, undeniable reality of what I have personally witnessed, experienced, and had the privilege to be a channel for. Before we go deeper, I want to say something important. This episode isn't about telling you what you must believe. We are simply here to explore experiences that millions of people across cultures and throughout history have quietly carried for years. Often people keep these moments locked away out of fear of being judged or having someone discredit them. But whether you explain them through spirituality, consciousness, energy, psychology, or just beautiful mystery, the experiences themselves are incredibly common. And I genuinely want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something after the passing of a loved one that felt meaningful or difficult to explain? Please share your experiences in the comments below, because many people quietly carry these moments for years without being able to talk about them openly, and hearing each other's stories helps us feel a little less alone. In fact, I'd love to feature listener stories in an upcoming episode. So if you have had a profound experience, whether you've seen an apparition, noticed a meaningful sign, heard a voice, or had a child say something that stopped you in your tracks, write it in the comments or send me a message. Nothing is too small. You could be a guest on a future Soul Signals episode. So the first thing I want to talk about is children. Kids seem to be naturally so much more sensitive to energies and to seeing things we don't normally pick up with our physical senses. They don't try to convince anyone. They just state things matter-of-factly. They casually say things like, "The lady standing in the hallway," or "Grandpa visited me," describing details they seemingly shouldn't know. A lot of us had imaginary playmates when we were little, and it often gets dismissed as imagination. But are we talking to figments of our imagination, or are we perceiving something else? Some people believe that children are naturally more open and sensitive before the world teaches them what is acceptable to perceive. Others believe these experiences come from imagination, emotional processing, or heightened sensitivity. But regardless of the interpretation, many of these stories leave powerful emotional impressions on the families experiencing them. I actually have a close friend with two boys who were incredibly sensitive to this when they were young. When her oldest was about 4, he used to say to her, "I want to go see Auntie Sharon." And when she'd ask him why, he'd say, "I want to see her colors." Because he could see my aura, the actual energy patterns around me. When he'd come over, we'd ask him what color I was. The first color he ever picked up for me was green, which is deeply associated with a healer. Later, he told me I was misty pink. I actually went online to look up healing colors and meanings, and right there on the list, among other colors that were just like green or yellow, it explicitly said misty pink. And that also had to do with the vibration of healer. And we're talking about a 4-year-old boy who knew absolutely nothing about this stuff. The same little boy was at his mom's cousin's house. The cousin had remarried years after her husband passed away. There were no photos of the first husband around, and the little boy had never heard any mention of him. But he was standing in the hallway talking to someone. His mom walked around the corner and asked, "Who are you talking to?" He pointed down the hall like it was the most obvious thing in the world and said, "Paul." Well, Paul was the exact name of her cousin's first husband. He would also describe vivid memories and details of a past life of a soldier, giving details he couldn't have picked up from any media because his mom didn't even have the TV on in the house except for educational children's cartoons. He was so sensitive to energy that instead of asking for a bedtime story, he would literally ask his mom, "Can you give me Reiki?" Because she took Reiki level 1 and 2 with me, and she would send him energy and he would drift off to sleep. Her younger son is just the same way. Their grandfather passed away in 2025. Not long ago, his mom was walking with him. He's about 5 now. And she sighed and said out loud, "I wonder what Grandpa would have thought about something." The little boy just looked at her, totally surprised, made a face and said something like, "Well, ask him. He's right there behind you." When he noticed her expression of surprise, he asked, "Don't you see him?" He genuinely assumed his mom could see him too. And then he told her, "He's always walking with us." This is something many well-known psychics and mediums share about their own childhoods, that when they were young and they saw things, they just assumed everyone else saw it too. They had no idea it was unique to them. And actually, the very first experience with their older son was when he was still a baby. They were at the hospital, sitting with his great-grandmother, who was in the process of passing away. As the great-grandmother lay in bed, she reached up her hand towards something no one else could see in the corner of the room and started talking to her deceased husband. At the exact same moment, the baby boy in his mother's arms was leaning sideways to see past her head and was pointing and babbling towards something in that same corner of the room. I want to mention something else that popped into my mind while I was sharing that. When I was a child, I had an imaginary playmate. She was my best friend. I would call her like my sister. Her name was Nicole. When I grew up, my best friend's name became Nicole. I was also adopted, and when I met my biological family when I was 22, I learned that my half-sister had an imaginary playmate when she was young, and her imaginary playmate's name was Sharon. Whether that is meaningful or simply a remarkable coincidence, I'll leave that with you. These stories really do change your perspective, and that is a huge reason why I wanted to do this episode today. I know so many people who are deeply lost in grief. I've seen friends post about losing their mothers, their brothers, their best friends. One dear friend of mine lost all 3, a mom, a brother, and a best friend, within a week's time. When you lose a parent, a child, or a partner, it feels like the rug gets ripped out from under your feet. It changes your whole reality. And sometimes it feels like that person took the joy and the meaning of life with them. It can manifest as a deep depression. The laundry piles up, you want to stay in bed, you don't even feel like answering the phone. And I understand that on a deeply personal level. I had been doing this work for nearly 10 years before my own father passed away. I had been passing on messages to people and witnessing how healing it was for them, hearing them say, "Oh my God, that was her favorite flower," or "That's exactly what she always said." I felt profoundly honored to be a channel for that healing. But it wasn't until my own dad crossed over that I truly understood on the deepest level how emotionally and psychologically freeing it is to receive communication from someone you love. Because the first thing people want to know is, are they okay? Do they see me? Can they hear me? And the answer to all of that is an absolute yes. I heard a beautiful quote from Esther Hicks, who channels the collective consciousness called Abraham, that provides so much wisdom. She said, "You need to stop looking where they were and start looking where they are." Think about that. When you stare at an empty chair, or you go to a gravesite, or pick up the phone wishing there was a message from them, that is only looking where they were. They're not there anymore. That is only going to fill you with sadness. But they are still with you. Look at it this way. These physical bodies we're running around in are just temporary vehicles for this three-dimensional Earth experience. We aren't physical bodies that once in a while have spiritual experiences. We are spiritual beings having temporary physical experiences. Not the richest person, not the smartest person. Nobody stays here forever. It's a temporary station. So when our loved ones crossed over, they have simply stepped out of what has been affectionately called the meat suit. They are free of the cumbersome, heavy vehicle that weighed them down, that needed to eat and breathe and was limited by how it could move. Maybe they suffered with ailments. That is all gone. They stepped out of the vehicle because they've arrived at their destination, what I refer to as source or home base. And heaven or the afterlife isn't some place floating on a cloud. They are right here. They simply exist now at a higher vibrational frequency, a different dimensional layer on top of this one. Think about it. Our physical eyes can only see a tiny fraction of the light frequencies that reflect off of things, but there are a whole lot of things all around us that our eyes and ears simply cannot perceive. Right now there are radio waves, Wi-Fi signals, microwaves passing right through the room, but we don't see them. Just because we can't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. They are there whether you believe it or not. But just like a tuner can pick up a wide range of AM and FM stations by tuning to the right signals, the unseen realm works exactly like that. If you learn to tune your intuition into those frequencies, you can start to pick up the messages from the other side. And here's something I find fascinating. It seems to be a two-way street. Just like we have to learn to tune our intuition in on this side to sense them, they also have to learn how to communicate with us from their side. It makes me think of the 1990 movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. Patrick Swayze's character is a spirit, but he has to be taught by a more adept ghost how to manipulate things in the physical world, starting with something as simple as moving a penny through concentrated intention because he's trying to get his wife's attention. We have various levels of communication skills over here with each other, let alone across dimensions. And it would seem they have various levels of communication skills on the other side as well. So if you haven't received a message sign from your mom or dad yet, it doesn't mean they're not around. It might just mean they are still practicing their skills, or maybe you're missing the signs because you're expecting them to look a certain way. However, once they get the hang of it, they are remarkably creative. They will gently drop a comforting thought into your mind, visit you vividly in a dream, or waft the scent of their favorite cigar or perfume into the room right at the moment you need it most. I describe many of the ways they communicate in my book, Soul Signals, through signs and symbols, through electrical currents, through your thoughts, through physical senses like familiar scents and sounds, the smell of their favorite perfume, the specific sound of their slippers shuffling down the hall. A dear friend of mine shared something beautiful with me recently. Her sister, who has crossed over, leaves her dimes everywhere. Not pennies, not nickels, not quarters, and here in Canada we can say not loonies or toonies, specifically dimes. Dimes held a very particular significance for her sister. She has found them in all kinds of random places, including once on a path in a remote forest area. She found so many that she dedicated a specific piggy bank in her sister's honor. And every time she comes across a random dime, she puts it in. Her sister passed just a few years ago, and in that short time, the piggy bank is almost full. I thought about that. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I found a dime, let alone enough to fill a piggy bank. That seems pretty specific to me. Just because you can no longer call them on the phone doesn't mean you have to stop speaking to them entirely. It is okay to talk to them. In fact, it can be very healing. It helps you feel the continued connection, lessen that feeling of loneliness, helping you organize your thoughts and think more clearly. Even in grief counseling, this is considered healthy and normal behavior. This is not refusing to let go of your grief. In fact, it is the opposite. It is you carrying them with you into this next chapter of your life. You can speak to them out loud or in your thoughts. They are aware of your thoughts, your intentions, and your feelings, and they will communicate back. If you pay attention and learn to tune in, before long, you get better at it to the point where you can be in almost constant awareness of their presence. We're supposed to do this naturally, but with the programming and conditioning of the world, being told as children that what we were sensing was just imagination, or being told we were too old for imaginary friends, we learn to dismiss our natural abilities. That's exactly why I created my online courses, to help people unlearn the dismissal and tune back in. That is also why I wrote Soul Signals. In that book, I explore intuition, synchronicity, inner knowing, and the subtle ways we are guided and connected through life. I share my own personal experiences with people who have crossed over, including my father, who has come through at some of the most crucial moments in my life. He has physically appeared to people, spoken, I have heard his voice in my physical ear, and communicated guidance and answers in the most undeniable ways. When someone that close to you communicates with you from the other side, it shifts everything. My dad has also helped us from the other side in very tangible, practical ways, ways I share in the book. So if you'd like to explore any of this more deeply, I'll put the links in the description below. I want to leave you with something I wrote in Soul Signals that I believe captures the beauty of what transitioning truly is. Death is like drifting into a dream. One moment your attention is here, and then almost without noticing, it has moved somewhere else. They haven't left. They simply stepped out of the body that carried them through this world. Gently, the way you step out of a vehicle once you completed your journey, and shifted into a frequency our eyes were not made to perceive. One that was always there, quietly woven through this life like a beautiful dream half remembered. And when they arrive, it isn't strange, it's familiar, it's home. And from that luminous place, they remain aware of you, still tender toward everything they loved, present in the way that pure love has always been, just beyond the edge of waking. My absolute sincere intention in sharing these sacred stories and experiences is to bring you the unshakable sense of peace and to help dissolve the fear of death for yourself and for those you love. The bonds of love never die. We are all eternally connected to Source, and those we love are only ever a single thought away. What matters most is that conversations like this are not about forcing certainty. None of us can fully prove exactly how these experiences work, but I do believe that human experiences deserve openness and curiosity rather than immediate dismissal, especially when those experiences bring healing, comfort, meaning, peace, or emotional transformation. And honestly, I think one of the deepest human desires is the hope that connection doesn't simply disappear, that love continues, that consciousness may be bigger than we currently understand. I've noticed that people often become most aware of signs, synchronicities, vivid dreams, and unexplained experiences during periods of grief. Almost like difficult life experiences open people emotionally and energetically in ways they never expected, whether those moments come from spiritual connection, subconscious awareness, energy, memory, intuition, or something science has yet to fully explain. They often change people profoundly and permanently. And that brings me to you. I genuinely want to hear your stories. Please, if you have experienced something after the passing of a loved one that felt meaningful or simply impossible to explain, share it in the comments below. Nothing is too small. Did you hear a voice, see a sign, smell your mom's favorite perfume out of nowhere, right at the moment you needed it most. Did your child say something that stopped you cold? I read every comment, and I believe that hearing each other's stories helps us feel less alone in experiences we may have quietly questioned for years. And if your story is a powerful one, I'd love to have you as a guest on an upcoming episode of Soul Signals dedicated entirely to listener stories. Just leave your experience in the comments or send me a message through the Soul Signals community at SharonMarieAllen.com, and we'll go from there. I'll put the links to my book, Soul Signals, and my online courses, including Tuning In, which helps you develop your own psychic and intuitive abilities, in the description below. You can always find and connect with me directly through the Soul Signals community. Until next time, keep paying attention to your signals. Bye for now.
Ready, set, go. Let the magic begin. We'll ride the waves of joy. Let the fun seep in. It's the Soul Signal Show. Come on in.